Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the things you value most, your ambitions, your desires, even your self-image, were not shaped by your deepest self, but by invisible forces around you. From childhood, you've been told what success looks like, what beauty should mean, and what happiness must feel like. Yet beneath those lessons lies a haunting question. How much of your life is truly yours, and how much has been scripted by society? This is where the great deception begins. It is not a single lie, but a system of illusion so powerful that most people never notice it. A web spun through culture, media, education, economics, and even the stories you tell yourself. But when you learn to see it, the veil begins to tear, and once you see, you cannot unsee. The journey we are beginning today will peel back those layers. We will confront illusions, follow the guidance of philosophers and thinkers across history, and move toward a final revelation. The truth that no deception can erase, the power of your authentic self. The surface illusions of culture and media modern society calls itself advanced and enlightened. We live surrounded by dazzling technology, instant communication, and unlimited entertainment. But as French philosopher Jean Baudrillard warned, our world no longer deals in reality, it deals in simulations. We do not simply encounter truth. We consume images and symbols that pretend to represent truth, but instead replace it. The news doesn't show the world as it is, but the version it selects for you. Advertisements don't reveal what products are. They sell carefully staged fantasies of fulfillment. Social media doesn't reflect authentic life. It curates lifestyles polished for envy and desire. Take a moment to reflect. When you scroll through headlines, ads, or feeds, how often do you feel you are encountering real life? And how often do you feel pulled into someone else's carefully crafted spectacle? Noam Chomsky described this with piercing clarity. In his idea of manufactured consent, he argued that media does not simply inform, but shapes public opinion by deciding what is shown, what is ignored, and how the story is framed. People believe they are making choices, but the range of choices has already been predetermined. The illusion of freedom remains, but the real freedom to think independently quietly fades. The illusion of freedom, the deception, does not stop with images. It reaches into the very heart of what we call freedom. Erich Fromm, in his classic work Escape from Freedom, warned that many people are overwhelmed by the burden of true liberty. Freedom requires responsibility, courage, and uncertainty. To escape that weight, people unconsciously surrender their autonomy to cultural norms, political systems, or authority figures. They settle for comfort rather than authenticity. We are told we are free because we can choose from endless brands, watch thousands of shows, or pick from countless distractions. But ask yourself, is that real freedom? Or is it simply the illusion of choice, keeping you occupied, entertained, and silent while the deeper questions remain untouched? Friedrich Nietzsche dared us to confront this directly. He argued that most people, rather than creating their own values, simply adopt those handed down by the herd. They drift into lives of mediocrity, spiritual decay, and half-truths. Nietzsche's challenge was painful but liberating. Question everything society has told you, and create your own path, even if it means standing alone. Seeds of reflection already, the pattern is clear. The deception is not about one lie. It is about many interwoven illusions. Images that feel like truth, freedoms that feel like choice, identities that feel like masks. And each illusion draws you further from your authentic self. So pause here. Ask yourself, how many of your desires were taught to you, not chosen by you? How many of your opinions were formed through headlines rather than reflection? How often do you confuse the abundance of options with true freedom? These questions are not comfortable, but they are the first cracks in the illusion. And through those cracks, light begins to shine. The great deception of modern society. The trap of identity and worth. The great deception does not only shape what we desire, it goes deeper. It shapes who we believe we are. From the beginning, society teaches us to measure worth by external standards: income, productivity, beauty, recognition, followers. These are not natural measures of human dignity. They are manufactured to keep us endlessly comparing, striving, and consuming. Carl Jung warned that modern man has lost touch with his own soul. He described the persona, the mask we wear for society. The mask itself is not false. It is necessary to navigate social life. But when we confuse the mask with our essence, when we forget the difference between performance and authenticity, we lose ourselves. We live as characters, not as whole beings. Consider how often people suppress their true feelings just to fit in, or present a curated version of themselves online, carefully editing reality to match society's expectations. The mask becomes heavy, and over time, many forget who lies beneath. Abraham Maslow, through his hierarchy of needs, argued that beyond survival and belonging lies the highest human aspiration, self-actualization. Yet few ever reach this level. Why? Because society drags us down with endless distractions, seeking approval, wealth, and shallow recognition. A population of self-actualized people would be free, independent, and impossible to control. So the deception thrives by keeping us busy chasing masks instead of truth. The machinery of economy. Look closer at the system and the illusion becomes structural. Value itself is reduced to economics. Your worth is tied to your productivity. Even your time is framed as a commodity, something to spend, save, or invest. Existence becomes an account balance. Karl Marx saw this long ago. He explained how, under capitalism, workers are alienated from their labor, from one another, and from themselves. They pour energy and creativity into work, only to see its fruits turned into commodities they do not own. Their essence is extracted, packaged, and sold back to them. Does this sound outdated? Or does it sound uncomfortably familiar? How many today feel like cogs in a machine, working tirelessly yet never fulfilled? How many exchange their days for wages that barely sustain them, while their deepest passions remain ignored? The deception convinces us that endless work is noble, that productivity defines dignity. But this is not truth, it is programming. It keeps people obedient, too drained to question, too fearful to step outside the system. Education, conformity over creativity. The illusion of economy is reinforced early through education. Schools could be sanctuaries of curiosity and discovery, yet too often they function as factories of conformity. Children are taught to sit still, follow rules, and memorize facts. Their worth is measured by grades, not imagination. Sir Ken Robinson once argued that schools kill creativity, not out of malice, but because they are structured to produce efficient workers, not free thinkers. By the time we reach adulthood, many of us have already internalized the lesson. Obey and you will be rewarded. Question and you will be punished. We learn to suppress our voice, to abandon our dreams, not because they are impossible, but because they are impractical within society's definition of success. Ask yourself, how many ideas have you abandoned not because they lacked value, but because they didn't fit the script? How many passions did you set aside because they didn't guarantee money or approval? This too is part of the deception. Conformity disguised as success. Obedience disguised as virtue. Technology, the new captivity. If education trains obedience and economy exploits energy, technology seals the deception with seduction. At first glance, technology is humanity's greatest ally, connecting us across continents, offering endless information, streamlining every convenience. But as philosopher Byung-Chul Han warns, technology's control is subtle. It does not enslave with chains, it enslaves with pleasure. Take social media. It doesn't demand your attention, it entices it. Every notification is engineered to stimulate dopamine, keeping you scrolling, liking, and consuming. Unlike past systems of control, this captivity feels voluntary. We willingly surrender our time, our focus, and our presence. But what do we lose? The ability to sit still, to reflect, to engage deeply. Presence, the most human of capacities, is quietly stolen. Modern society convinces us that constant connection is the same as true connection. But the two are worlds apart. One fills your life with noise. The other fills your soul with meaning. And here lies the tragedy. Never before has humanity been so connected, and yet never before has it been so lonely. Despite material comfort, rates of anxiety, depression, and burnout climb higher each year. Comfort without meaning is hollow. Possession without purpose is empty. Distraction without depth leaves us more restless than before. The existential void. If the great deception controls culture, economy, and technology, its deepest victory is not external at all, it is internal. It seeps into the very core of human life, our sense of meaning. Despite having more comforts, choices, and opportunities than any previous generation, countless people feel empty. Why? Because distraction without depth numbs us temporarily but cannot satisfy the soul. Possession without purpose only leaves us hungrier. Viktor Frankl, psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, saw this in the most extreme conditions imaginable. In the camps, he observed that survival was not determined by strength alone, but by meaning. Those who discovered a purpose, whether love, faith, or future goals, could endure unimaginable suffering. Those who lacked meaning crumbled even when comforts were present. His conclusion is timeless. We do not live by comfort, but by meaning. And modern society, by drowning us in noise, possessions, and masks, keeps us from confronting the hunger for meaning. Confronting mortality. The deception thrives by keeping us distracted from life's most sobering truth. Death. Martin Heidegger argued that only by confronting mortality, by facing the reality that life is finite, can we strip away illusions and live authentically. He called this stance being toward death. When we remember that our time is limited, society's shallow measures of worth lose their grip. We no longer have the luxury of wasting life chasing illusions. Think of the moments when people awaken most deeply, after a loss, a crisis, or a near-death experience. Suddenly the masks fall away. Suddenly the career, the possessions, the distractions seem insignificant. What matters then is authenticity, love, truth, and presence. So ask yourself, if today were your last day, would you be satisfied with the life you have lived? Or would you regret that you allowed society's script to define your story? The final revelation: we have followed the illusions of society. Consumerism, conformity, technology, false identity. Each layer pulls us further from authenticity. Yet beneath them all lies the deepest truth. You are not powerless. The greatest deception is not merely distraction. It is the lie that you are too small to matter. Too dependent to resist, too weak to break free. But history tells us otherwise. Socrates questioned the false wisdom of Athens. Buddha pierced through the illusions of suffering. Jesus confronted hypocrisy with the radical power of love and truth. Emerson declared that, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. These figures were not gods in disguise. They were human beings who refused to remain asleep. Their awakening reshaped the world, and so can yours. What awakening means to awaken from the great deception is not easy, but it begins with 3 steps. Awareness, recognizing illusions for what they are. Seeing consumerism not as freedom but as a trap. Seeing conformity not as safety but as silence. Seeing distraction not as rest but as numbing. Awareness cracks the spell. Authority, reclaiming your inner voice. Asking, what do I truly value? What gives my life meaning? What kind of person do I want to become? These questions cannot be answered by society, media, or tradition. Only you can answer them. Responsibility, embracing the weight of freedom. As Fromm warned, many flee from freedom because it feels too uncertain. But the burden of freedom is also the crown of dignity. When you choose your path consciously, you step into your full humanity. Finally, awakening means connection. For some, this is spiritual, faith in God or a higher order. For others, it is the pursuit of justice, truth, or beauty. For still others, it is found in love and compassion. Whatever form it takes, connection reminds you that your life has a purpose beyond consumption, beyond status, beyond masks. The call to action, so pause here. Look within yourself. Ask, where am I still living by society's script? What masks am I wearing that no longer serve me? What distractions am I clinging to that keep me from silence? These are not questions to answer in a moment. They are questions to carry with you. Let them work on you. Let them disturb you. And let them slowly reveal the truth. Because here is the most powerful revelation. No matter how deep the deception, your inner spark remains untouched. Society can bury it, distract you from it, even mock it. But it cannot destroy it. That spark, your consciousness, your longing for truth, your hunger for authenticity is indestructible. The moment you choose to listen to it, the deception begins to collapse. Conclusion: real revolution begins within. Change the inner world and the outer world follows. A society of awakened individuals cannot be deceived in the same way. They no longer seek validation from illusions. They live from truth. And the most radical act in a world of deception is to live as your authentic self. So awaken. Do not settle for masks or distractions. Do not confuse noise with meaning. Choose depth, courage, and truth, because the deception of modern society is powerful. But your truth is more powerful still. And once you awaken to it, nothing can deceive you in the same way again.